Hello everybody and welcome back to Sweet Cheat Sheets. Today we're making something truly special, a fancy quiche anybody can make, a pear and roquefort quiche. Let's begin. First, get yourself some pears. You'll probably need about 6 pears. I'm using red pears because they tend to be sweeter, but green pears work just as well and they're usually firmer, so it's up to you which type of pear do you prefer. Now, just peel them. You know, it's actually quite funny how your most favorite recipes can come from the most unexpected situations. I actually learned this quiche recipe completely by accident. It was 2020, so you know what that means. It was COVID time, and just before COVID hit, we booked this cooking class, which was supposed to be about Asian street food, but obviously, with the restrictions, the class was cancelled. Okay, back to our pears for just a moment. You want to slice your pears into eighths, meaning each half will get 4 wedges. Don't forget to also take out the core and the seeds, which I highly recommend doing before you cook the pears, because if you do it after, from experience, it's actually quite painful. Anyway, back to our story. When the restrictions were lifted, the classes were reinstated, but the original class we wanted, the Asian street food, was no longer available. So we were looking what we can do, and we saw that the quiche and pie class was available. So we said, let's do it. Let's just have some fun and learn something new. So in this class, we learned how to make the dough for both a sweet and savory base, but also the different fillings. And I specifically worked on this quiche. So I learned all the steps and all the little tricks you need to make it a great quiche. And it just became one of my favorites because it looks so complicated and so fancy when you present it to everybody, but it's so easy to make. Now for the poaching liquid, we'll start by adding sugar, then we add our wine. You just want to add enough wine to cover all the pears. We'll cook the pears on medium-high heat for about 25 to 30 minutes until it reaches a boil. When they're ready, carefully strain the pears. Now put them to the side and let them cool down. For our perfect foundation, we're starting with flour and a pinch of salt. Then we'll add our cold cubed butter, but only a few at a time. Attach your dough hook and start mixing. Keep on adding that butter gradually as you mix that dough. From time to time, you may need to stop and push everything back down, but it is okay because in general, you want to work your dough as little as possible while still getting to the desired consistency. Once you have that crumbly texture, it's time for the egg. If you notice your dough is a bit dry, add a tablespoon of water, or 2. Mix until the dough comes together, but make sure not to overmix it because that would make the dough a bit tough. I like to give it just a few more quick kneads by hand to gather those last stray bits of the dough. Form it into a bowl and wrap it up. Let it rest in the fridge for at least half an hour, but not too long. With our foundation chilling, it's time to create the savory heart of our quiche. And it all starts with the cheese. First we have our nutty, semi-hard and mild Kashkaval. Now for the star of the show, we have the Roquefort. It's a sharp and creamy cheese, perfect for the quiche. It's time to create our creamy base that carries all the flavor, and obviously it starts with cream. We'll add a spoon of flour for thickening and minced garlic for flavor. It's time to whip it all up. And just like that, it's ready. After our dough has chilled and firmed up, we can finally shape it. And it starts with rolling. Gently roll out your dough, turning it occasionally so you can have it even on all sides. I also like to flip it from time to time so nothing will get too stuck. Roll it out until it's a bit wider than your pan, and a quick check shows us that it is. Carefully drape the dough over the pan and gently press it into the bottom and the sides. As you can see, some tears might happen, but that's what's fun about the dough. You can always fix it with that excess that we have because we rolled the dough bigger than the pan. Don't forget to poke some holes with a fork to avoid the dough from getting a big bubble in the middle while it bakes. Now get some parchment paper for your blind baking. Add your weights. I'm using hummus beans, but you can definitely use dry beans, uncooked rice, anything that has a little weight and can survive baking in the oven. Now it's time to bake. First round will be 15 minutes on 150 Celsius or 300 Fahrenheit. Carefully take it out and remove the weights. A neat and helpful trick is to have the parchment paper a bit bigger than the pan, cause it makes this step so much easier. Save those beans for later, and it's back to the oven for another 5 minutes. With the crust ready, it's time to assemble. We'll start by arranging our cooled wine-poached pears. I love creating a beautiful spiral pattern, working from the outside in to assure that every slice gets plenty of fruit. Next, we'll blanket our pears with our rich, savory garlic cream. Gently spread the cream, letting it settle into every single nook and cranny. Now for our first layer of cheese, the grated Kashkaval. I like to tuck the cheese into the cream, which helps creating one cohesive, delicious layer. And finally, a generous sprinkle of Roquefort to provide that bold, salty punch that cuts through the sweetness of the pears. And with that, our quiche is fully assembled and ready for its final bake. We'll bake it on 180 degrees Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit for 45 minutes until the top is nice and golden. And there you have it, a stunning pear and Roquefort quiche, perfectly golden and beautifully puffed from the oven. Just look at that wonderfully flaky buttery crust and rich creamy filling. A delicious contrast of sweet, salty and savory. I truly hope you give this recipe a try and share those results in the comments down below. If you liked this video, hit the subscribe button and I'll see you on the next one.